Oh man, the island vibes, baby. Your boy Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, the Long Island vibes, that is, Long Island Changemakers. But those tunes, man, it makes me feel like spring has sprung and we're right there. I'm ready to get rid of my shoes and put my flip-flops on. Let's get to it. So the show is Long Island Changemakers. Every week on the show, I bring you another friend, somebody who is on the front lines. Sometimes it's business professionals, sometimes it's nonprofit professionals, but these are all change makers. And what I like to do is feature the work they're doing, help them tell their stories. And you know me, man, I'm curious. I just want to learn, and I know that's why you keep checking in, because you want to learn too. My friend, Roberta Rosenberg, is here. Founder, director of Destination Accessible. What's going on? How are you?
I'm good. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to have you here. So much going on with your organization. I mean, what I got to just shout out, because I know this, you're involved with the Long Island Imagine Awards this year, a finalist in Long Island Imagine Awards. So if people don't know what the Long Island Imagine Awards are, Google it, imagineawardsli.org.com. I don't know if it's .org or .com. We'll put it on the screen for you, but we'll get that for you. But I was so happy when the application came in as a committee member for the Long Island Imagine Awards. And we read your application, and you advanced to the semifinals, and I got to reach out to you to do the interview. And we do an interview, and then we do a write-up. So I'm kind of commercial here for the Imagine Awards, but we do a write-up, and then I know you got to, everybody, all the finalists get a professionally done video. I'm looking at my friend right now. I called you that morning because how did that go, the video?
The video went, I hope it went fine.
Yeah.
We don't know until we're there.
Well, we'll find out on the 29th.
They were all very helpful.
Yeah.
It was quite an experience, something we had never done before, obviously. It was quite a learning experience for us to be able to put into 60 seconds what we do and how we do it.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of work, and I'm very grateful to my board. We're a very small niche organization, and everybody pitched in, and we spent a lot of time getting that script done.
I love that, and look at that though. But it's so interesting to reflect on things like that, because I was just having this conversation with somebody. Actually, it's from the business side of what we do, Vanguard Benefits, our agency. We have a new program called the Vanguard Benefits Hall of Fame Award. So these are Hall of Fame employers, so employers who are very employee-centric, I like to say, focused on their employees, focused on their staff, focused on culture. I think that's the C word I was looking for, culture. And I was speaking to one of our clients about this, and we were asking him about different benefits he offers for his employees, what the culture of his organization is, and it was about an hour-long conversation. And he was very thoughtful in answering these questions, and he would pause and take note, and he said, guys, you know, whether we do win the Vanguard Benefits Award, Hall of Fame Award, or we don't, he goes, this is a great opportunity for me to reflect on what I do for my employees. So I think from the same, you're an organization that's not brand new, right? So your board and you were able to kind of reflect and say, how do we tell this story? Because I think it's critically important for us as nonprofit professionals to understand who's on our board, why they're on our board, and make sure we, to our best ability, align the way they tell our story. So maybe you experienced some of that.
I found the working together on this particular specific project to be I'll say, a real good bonding experience.
That's pretty awesome.
And we also had to provide images. That was a whole other experience. And so we learned a lot about that. So we learned a lot about things that we really never thought about. I thought actually I was foolish enough to think that when my interview with you was over and we found out that we were finalists, it was like, that's it till April 29th. And
work was done, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I mean, the great benefit of that, certainly it sounds like there's all these ancillary benefits that you and the board experienced. The great benefit, though, is your video. For all the finalists in the Imagine Awards, I feel like this is an Imagine Awards commercial, but for all the finalists, they get that professionally done video to use for your marketing, whatever you want to do, send it out to donors or prospective collaborators. So that's really a great key. So, well, you know, listen, hopefully it doesn't end until, you know, you're on stage picking up the check. Right? Hey, listen, who knows? They would never tell me. They don't tell me. I know like everybody else knows when the announcement happens on the stage. And the event, I am going to just tell everybody the event is April 29th, 2025, Crest Hollow. If you want to check it out, reach out to me, Tommy D at philanthropyinfocus, PHOCUS.com, and then go to the Imagine Awards website, which we'll share for you. But we do have tickets to sell for the event still. So that's incredible. Have you ever been to the Imagine Awards?
No, I haven't.
You haven't?
No, because it is the same. It is the weekend sort of my granddaughter's birthday, and so we have never been here for them.
Oh,
so when I found out about this time, I was like, okay, we're not going.
You're not going to go. Oh man, oh my God. All right, you send her a gift.
So
Amazon.
No, we'll go the following. But no, I never have, and so
then you're gonna. You know what's great about it?
I am looking forward to it.
And just to say, it is such a special room to be in, and being there. This is going to sound really obnoxious, but being in the room with me as my friend, I'm going to be like bringing you around the whole room. You got to meet Roberta. You know, you got to meet Eileen Minogue from Book Fairies, right? You got to meet Yolanda Roboto, Gross from Options for Community Living, and it's just to me, it's a great opportunity to sort of. I say I like to be the straw that stirs the drink. In that room, I'm more like the Tasmanian devil that stirs up the whole room. Wow. Yeah.
You do good work.
I do.
And I have to say that. So I think Ken Serini started the Imagine Awards.
Yep.
And I think that I'll say it's a tribute to him that this organization decided to honor nonprofits, because that is a really special thing. And even though we are one, I don't think that that's something that happens very often.
It doesn't, and that's what he saw. He saw there was plenty of top lawyers, top CPAs, right, top manufacturing companies, but Ken's vision was there was not enough light being shown on the nonprofit sector. And it's great. It's like the Oscars. I'm so excited you're going to be there. We're going to have so much fun. It's like the Oscars because they play everybody, the 4 videos, the whole thing, and I can't sit still.
I do have to say that I was surprised when someone who won the award some years ago said to me, you know, Roberta, you don't find out who wins till that night. It's like going to the Oscars. I was shocked when she told me that.
It's so fun. And you'll cry. We'll all cry because some of these organizations, I mean, all of these organizations are winners. Not to sound cliche, but they're all winners because they're doing great work. Some of the stories, though, you get choked up. It's unbelievable. Let's go. I want to go into, though, let's tell these folks about your organization. What's your background? We were just talking about teaching before we get started here, but I know this because we've done this on Philanthropy in Focus. But let's set the stage, your background, and then how this organization, Destination Accessible, came to be.
So I think that most nonprofits begin because somebody had a vision of something that wasn't getting done, and they felt that they could hopefully make a difference in that area, whatever it is. And we are a very small niche organization, and I say that, you know, I have great respect for anybody that runs a nonprofit, but we realize that we are, you know, as I often say, you know, we're not feeding the hungry, and we're not, you know, we're not providing shelter for people, and certainly, you know, those are huge issues. But in our small way, we are enriching the lives of people. Yeah. And so that is our goal. And like everybody else, it started from what I saw as a need. My mom had polio as a child and was never a good walker and always had problems. And towards the end of her life, she was had a walker and then a wheelchair, and we would go wherever we would go. And my mom died in the early 2000s, so, you know, it wasn't Google, it wasn't whatever. And there were some really unpleasant examples, not just of the difficulties of getting her places, but in the degrading way that she was treated. People in wheelchairs are often, people don't speak to them, they speak to whoever's pushing the wheelchair. Okay, so we did it, we went, and then my mom passed away, and I was, you know, working, and well, life went on, and it was sort of there, I guess, in the back of my mind. And then in 2012, I had a bizarre accident, doesn't matter what it was, that left me in a wheelchair for 6 months, and then another year till I fully recovered, a walker, a cane, you know, the whole process. And so once again, I was sort of reminded of the kinds of things that that we dealt with my mom, and here I was living them.
And did you start to feel the rudeness that you saw your mom being treated that way? You experienced that?
Yes, I think most people are kind, but one of the things that annoyed me the most was that if we went into a restaurant and someone had to move their chair 6 inches so you could pass in your wheelchair, they sort of gave you a dirty look.
Ugh, yeah, they get like they're frustrated, right?
Right. That was the item that stuck out most to me. And noticing other things like my orthopedist office, an orthopedist office, who the accessible restroom, big accessible restroom. If you were in a wheelchair, which I was, you couldn't reach the soap dispenser. It was too high up on the wall. And so for 8 years, while they were in that office, every time I would go there, I wasn't in a wheelchair for all that time, but every time I would go there, I would say to the office manager, Maggie, you know, the soap dispenser has to be moved down. Yeah, we'll take care of it. They
8 years.
8 years. They moved out of that office. 8 years, the soap dispenser was still there. As far as I know, it's still there. I don't know. Anyway, okay, back to work, back to, you know, my life, you know, again. And then my father, who happily lived to the age of 99.
Wow.
But when he was like in 96, 97, although his mental capacities were all there, his body was falling apart. And so he had a cane, had a walker, had a wheelchair. And that was really what did it for me. And so I would go to visit my dad. My dad loved to go out.
Yeah.
He liked to go to the movies, liked to go to the theater. He just loved to be out.
Sure.
And so I would be noticing many, many more things about, for example, we would go to a restaurant and the restroom, even though I had called, the restroom wasn't accessible. Or we would go someplace, you know, to a store or whatever, and there was no there was an accessible stall in the restroom. Well, my husband had no problem taking me into the ladies' room when I was in a wheelchair. Right. I had a problem taking my 97-year-old father into the men's room.
Sure.
And so I would sort of wind up with some nice young guy like you who would offer to help him in, which was very nice. But I was thinking about the inequities about it.
Yeah.
And finally, the last straw for me was, and this was going on for several years, the last straw was going to a brand new museum in Miami, and the doors to get in were like 3 stories high, gorgeous wooden doors. You couldn't open them.
Super heavy, right.
They didn't have a push-button assist. It was like, but worse than that was when you opened the door, they had what I describe as brown plastic shag carpet. Okay. And it was for the rain. But 2 of us couldn't push a wheelchair through that.
It's like pushing it through wet grass, right?
Well, yeah, it was disgusting. But worse than that was, okay, it was a brand new place, so that was like 2015, I guess around there. And my father needed a restroom, and they had all single occupancy restrooms, a nice kind of like pod, except that the 2 accessible ones were locked. So each one you could open.
Nobody's standing there with the key.
Nobody's standing there with the key, and when we asked, oh, you have to go back to the admission desk.
The man has to use the bathroom. We don't have time for this game right now.
Correct. So that was like the item that really got me saying, okay, I need to do something about this. Yeah. It's like enough. Yeah. And so I remember calling my husband that night and saying, look, when I come home, I'm going to do something about this. But I wasn't sure what. And I said, so already that was like, 2015, whatever, Google was around. You could Google, you could call, you could whatever. And I enlisted a friend. My husband was, sure, do whatever you want to do. A friend, and we spent about a year researching what we would do. I knew that I wanted to have a website.
Like, what are you trying to solve? How, that sort of thing?
Yes, like what could we do to improve this situation? So we said, well, this information should be out there for people to see. There needs to be every venue.
The information should be accessible.
That is correct.
See what I did?
Yeah. And so it should be, now our perspective was, this should be on everybody's website. You should write on your website what your accessibility is. Okay. And many, I'll say most places do not do that. So we decided that we were going to do that. But, you know, how were we going to do it? Well, Yelp or TripAdvisor, you know, okay, but you can't count on them because it's crowdsourced. Nobody is making sure that it's true. Nobody is fact-checking it. It's not verifiable. And what did we want to do? So we were doing research and, you know, getting input from people. Oh, you should do banks. You should do supermarkets. And I'm like, And I was thinking about my mom and my dad and me. You have to go to those places, you know, you have to go to the bank, you're going to go wherever. But what about going out for fun? I was trying to take my father out to have a good time.
Right.
And the not knowing or the impediments that there were that we couldn't overcome really did not allow him to have the best experience possible. So what we decided was we were going to concentrate on places people go for fun. Mm-hmm. And we were going to, you know, so our categories became restaurants, theaters, parks, museums, other popular places, you know, bowling alleys and stuff like that. And originally, when we originally conceived this idea, we thought about this as a site for seniors.
Okay.
However, along the way, all of a sudden, my granddaughter's mother says to me, you know, what about us with baby carriages?
Yeah.
You know, we're the same as a wheelchair almost. We'd like that information too. So we immediately stuck in kid-friendly venues and thinking about, okay, so the kid-friendly venue, the person taking the kid to the venue might have some limitation also. So that went in there, which was great. And so we, again, I said we spent about a year. What did we want to include? What was important to someone with a mobility challenge? You know, what were the most practical things that someone with a mobility challenge would want to have? And so we devised a checklist, and we spent some time going around with our checklist to see how is this going to work. And we also decided that it was very important that any place that we put on our website, we had to have visited. Someone had to have personally visited.
And experienced and looked around and kind of checked the stuff out.
And could say that, okay, this is the day we went, this is where we went, this is what we found when we went. And then if someone had commented and said, you know, this isn't correct, then we could say we're responsible for that, and we are, you know, we will check it out and take care of it.
So who is this we? Sounds like you have like a big team, like bunch of researchers, attorneys, a bunch of people.
Sounds great, doesn't it? No, it's me and the board.
Okay.
And even my partner, due to a family issue, had to leave some years ago and is now happily living in North Carolina.
Okay.
So it was basically me and our board, which is 5 people. So we are the people that do everything. One of our board members said recently, you know, we're small but we're mighty.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, you know, so we have spent our time improving our checklist, you know, and getting to as many venues as we can, and trying to enrich as many lives as possible by having people know about us.
I have some ideas, like, because we're talking about mobility issues, and I think, you know, it connects to, and I love how there was this evolution with the vision. It was, well, we're going to help seniors. There's so many people who are not seniors that have mobility issues, and you also had that spin on the mom or the dad with a stroller. And I have 4 children, and we had 0 children, and then 5 years later we had 4 children. So there was a lot of small children in my house, like at the same time. There was a double stroller, and you would just like throw one over your shoulder too, and just like, there's a lot of people who have mobility issues. And I remember a long time ago, I had interviewed the former CEO of the Viscardi Center, John Kemp, on my show, and the far majority of people who are disabled become disabled and are not born disabled.
87%.
Okay, so there you go. So that means there's a good chance many of us will become disabled. Certainly you mentioned your parents. You know, you said your mom had polio, but your dad became disabled later on because he was older, right? You had your accident that you were disabled for a time. There's such a large population that what you do serves. And what I'm thinking here is, just last week, I took my children, 3 of my 4, to opening day at Citi Field. Let's go Mets. I took them to the game. And I have a friend there who I'm going to connect you with, who's coming on my show, Philanthropy in Focus, in a couple of weeks. He has a motorized wheelchair. and at the game, he called or texted me. We were sitting in similar sections. I came down to see him, and he had a friend, a colleague, business associate and colleague of his, who I think is on the board of this organization, who is a Nassau County judge. And I think the two of them are going to come to the studio here, and we're going to do something together. But what I'm seeing is opportunities for your, as you say, niche organization, your, you know, certainly strong or small and mighty, but certainly small and strong and mighty organization and team, to opportunity to collaborate with some other organizations. And because there are so many organizations, especially in the IDD or intellectually developmentally disabled space, that would benefit from being aware of Destination Accessible. And you know this, I am the nonprofit sector connector. So I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, there's like 10 different organizations that I see that you should be, I'll just use this word, but collaborating with or partnering with or something where, correct me if I'm wrong, but being a smaller organization, one of the challenges is not only human capital, but real capital, do-re-mi.
Yes.
So maybe there's some
Definitely.
collaboration, shout out to my other friends in the nonprofit sector, that we can get something together, and maybe there's some grants that could be written, because I don't know, I think there's like 8 million people on this island, this Long Island, I believe. Those numbers might be, somebody's like Google fact checking me and saying you're totally
Well, there's
wrong.
more than 500,000 that have a disability.
More than 500,000 people on Long Island that have a disability. Okay, so that doesn't necessarily mean mobility issues, but let's say half of those, let's say 250,000 people.
But interestingly enough, the vast majority of people that have a disability is some sort of a mobility problem.
It is, okay, the vast majority is a mobility. Okay, so there it is. So you're serving the vast majority of these people with disabilities, or could be serving, right? 'Cause I think the other part of it is, like I say this, I think I joked with you before we started, like it's another nonprofit story that is, Tommy D, we're the best kept secret, but we don't want to be, like one of these type of things, right? So most people probably aren't even aware that you exist, which is a perfect opportunity to say, what's the website? Talk about that real quick so people know.
So the website is easy, destinationaccessible.org or .com. You'll find it on any of them. It will take you to us. And it's there, you know, and our website is very easy. Our website does not have any bells or whistles on it. By design, it was designed with seniors in mind, and so it's very easy to navigate. It is accessible. We are.
Yeah, well done.
Well, it took us a long time to find someone to do it because it was so expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was
another
issue.
It's interesting. I have some ideas about that, connections and whatnot that we could do. Because there's a particular organization right here, like literally like very close to where we are right now. And they have a whole department. I don't know why I'm not just saying who it is. Shout out Viscardi Center. Hello, Viscardi. They have an incredible team over there that does accessible websites and makes sure that companies' websites, business and nonprofits, are accessible. And that's where I see some real cool opportunities that we can collaborate. And it's, you know, I was going to be like, oh, shame on me. It's not that. Timing is everything. And for whatever reason, the timing feels right to make that connection over there, and let's see what that kind of blossoms into. Yeah.
No, you are right about that. And
timing.
you know, we would be happy to connect with anybody, you know, about anything, because the truth of the matter is that some weeks ago a friend said to me, you know, people don't realize that we are all one illness or one accident away from needing, you know, from not necessarily needing, it's not the same way that you need to eat or you need to drink, but benefiting from what we offer.
100%.
From making the quality of your life better.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like what you said there, not necessarily needing, because like folks who have mobility issues, right, they want to go do things just like everybody who doesn't have mobility issues, right? But if we make it difficult and we put all this friction in place, folks are going to stay home, or they're not going to go do things. Like,
right, and you know, that is our goal, to let people know what they're going to find when they get there, and not to tell, like we don't tell anybody where to go. Our goal is for you to have enough information so that you can make an informed choice about if you want to go to this place, and if you do want to go, what do you have to do to make it work for you?
I love that, but now from a perspective of thinking about money and development and stuff like that, I think there is a cool angle here. Like, so last night I was at an event, and I'm remembering this now, although it really didn't matter to me at the time because I'm not in a wheelchair. But I was at a place down in Wantor, a big old place, and I walked in and walked up the stairs, and right next to me was a ramp. Big old ramp, like I'm talking like, I don't know, 20 yards or something like that. Maybe that's exaggerating, 10 yards, it was long. What if you said we don't tell people where to go, but we're saying where they can be accessible. But what if companies came to you, right, and sponsored or donated and said, yes. Right? Well, right? So what if they did? I saw you shake your head at first, like, oh no. But so what if they did? But like, let me just say, like let's say a place called, this place doesn't exist that I've ever heard of, so I'll make it up. Tommy D's restaurant, right? Like Tommy D's.
I'll go.
I would go too. It would be a cool place. Tommy D's, and Tommy D's is focused on making sure that everybody has a great time and everybody makes a new friend and everybody connects. It sounds like a place I would go.
Sounds like a place you would want.
It sounds like a place I would own, yeah. So, but they're very focused on the experience for everybody, all abilities, all access, the whole thing. That type of place could be a partner with you and be like, hey, you know, we should sponsor. So you said we don't tell people where to go, but maybe you would suggest, like, this spot's great. You know, the TVs, it's a bar restaurant. The TVs are accessible for everybody. It's got these great bathrooms. Everything's accessible. They got ramps. It's all cool. There's an elevator because if you want to go up to the 3rd floor where they have the outdoor patio where people go smoke cigars, you can take the elevator if you're in a wheelchair. That would be a place where you would probably love to promote that place.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's where I see like a strategic partnership, a relationship where it's so silly. I was going to say forward thinking, but not forward thinking. Organizations that are doing the right thing, right? Because, I mean, the ADA didn't happen last week.
Well, that's
it's not like 40, 50 years ago, the Americans with Disabilities Act.
It's its 35th anniversary.
It's the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I have family members who are in wheelchairs, so I understand the importance of this. That being said, I'm not in a wheelchair, so I don't understand it directly every single day.
Right, but it's not just about wheelchairs.
Tell me more.
You know, it's about people with heart conditions who can't, you know, who can't walk that far without sitting down to take a rest. Mm-hmm. It's about people with a walker who, although they can manage upstairs, I'll say often, they need a handrail.
Sure.
It's about people who are on crutches, who had an accident.
Yeah.
And, you know, this lady the other day that was telling me about pools and how slippery it is with her crutches. It's about a lot of other things besides wheelchairs. And that, you know,
I'm getting stuck on the wheelchair thing, though. You're right.
But making a venue accessible for a wheelchair user ensures that it's accessible for everyone else.
Checking a lot of boxes.
It's going to check all the boxes.
Okay.
So I'm going to say, I don't know what the percentage of venues on our website are, I'll say 100% accessible. Mm-hmm. But that being said, there are many of these places that most people could navigate if they knew what to expect and how to, then they could decide how to do it. And
know before you go.
That's our goal.
That's your thing. Know
that's
before you go.
That's our tagline, which we originally stole from News 12.
Yeah.
They don't use it anymore, happily.
Well, so then it's yours now. My sister told me, if you take a joke from somebody and you use it twice, it's yours.
Oh, well.
Like you give credit twice, and now.
We did check with our attorney first to find out that, you know,
that was a good
they weren't
idea.
going to.
That was very thoughtful.
You know, you know, the combination of everybody deserves to have a good time, even if you are disabled in some way or have a limitation at the moment.
Right.
Everybody deserves to have a good time. And if you know before you go, then you can ensure that you can make it happen for you to have the best experience that you can.
I love that. And you know what? It's the right thing to do because it's the right thing to do. That's the bottom line. Give them the website really quick one more time. Shout out the website for everybody.
DestinationAccessible.org.
Perfect. You are a Long Island Changemaker. I appreciate your friendship. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. You come back. We'll do it again. It's super easy. Once again, this has been another episode of Long Island Changemakers with your boy Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector. I appreciate you being here. There's those island vibes again, man. This has been another In Focus production. Make it a great day. I'll see you later. Bye now.